All right, today we're going to talk about the runoff in Georgia, the Democratic victory, and what that means for the stock market. So we're going to have Rohit Srivastava, the Chief Investment Officer and Portfolio Manager with the Seed3 Fund, joining us momentarily. In the meantime, if you haven't noticed, Georgia just had their Senate election. It went Democratic for the first time in a couple of decades. And so what that means for the Senate, having Democratic majority, what that means for the cannabis industry, we're going to get into all of that. So welcome back to the Talking Hedge. I'm Josh Kincaid, capital markets analyst and host of your Cannabis Business Podcast. So what a Democratic victory in Georgia runoff election means for the stock market, according to Benzinga. So what happened? So on Tuesday, Georgia held two Senate runoff elections. So as of Wednesday morning, that'd be today, looks like the projected winner is the Democratic Party. And so why is that important? Well, online prediction estimates that Democrats have a 97% chance of gaining control of the Senate. And so analysts and experts say that Democratic control of the White House, Senate, and House of Representatives would be great news for the Democratic agenda. So in the near term, President-elect Joe Biden has reportedly said that the Senate control would potentially allow him to make more progressive cabinet picks. Maybe that's a Freudian slip. So the investor impact. Two areas in which investors could see a positive impact from a Democratic victory could be cannabis stocks and clean energy stocks. So Cantor Fitzgerald analysts said that Democratic control of the Senate would be a game changer for cannabis stocks. We go from speculating what President-elect Biden could have done for cannabis reform via the executive order, and if the Senate would have held a vote for the SAFE Act, more about timing and scope of a broader reform for the cannabis industry. So that said, let's see, cannabis stocks, they're going to soar with the Democratic-controlled Senate. So the Georgia Senate election would be a game changer for cannabis industry if the Democrats in Georgia wins the close race. So they go from speculating what the president-elect would have done for cannabis to actually doing something about it. And now that the Democratic-controlled House and Senate with the Democratic president kind of allows for a lot more flow rather than just signing executive orders and hoping that things move on. So the investment debate, it's more about the priority cannabis reform will take over the more pressing matters for the Biden administration and what types of reform the Vice President-elect Harris and tiebreaker vote would be used for. So cannabis stocks to watch. I'm not going to really include those. There's some ETFs. Pre-market Tilray was up 16%. Afri was up almost 10. Aurora was up over 16. And Canopy Growth was up near 8%. So definitely going crazy today. All of that means that they're anticipating either decriminalization or rescheduling. Obviously, rescheduling wouldn't be the best way to go about it because that's not going to really change anything. By descheduling to a Schedule 2, for example, what that would do is just basically open up or allow for big pharma to jump in. So that's not going to really help anybody, especially some of those small-time producer processors and retailers. If big pharma has control over all of it, not really going to be that advantageous. So got to look out for that. All right, so let's take a look at why specifically today would be a huge day for cannabis. Taking a look at a Motley Fool article here. So in November, pot stocks, they soared on both Joe Biden presidential win and legalization of recreational cannabis for 4 more states. That was Arizona, Montana, New Jersey, and South Dakota. Plenty of optimism could be for significant changes ahead for the cannabis industry, including the decriminalization of cannabis and moving it off of the current Schedule 1 with the DEA. So, but time and time again, cannabis investors, they've gotten their hopes up after the cannabis legislation passed in the House of Reps, only for it to end and going nowhere. Senate really likes to crush that. So even a change in leadership at the White House might not be enough. Arguably, one of the biggest obstacles for the cannabis industry is the Senate, but power there could soon shift as well. So runoff elections, it's going to determine the party controls in the Senate. In Georgia, there's 2 Senate runoff elections scheduled for today, or yesterday, actually. All eyes are on that race for the Republicans that are currently holding the seat. And so, with 2 seats at stake, a Democratic sweep would give the party an equal share. And if there's a tie in the Senate, the deadlock is broken by the vice president, a seat that Democratic Kamala Harris would soon hold. So, what does that mean if Democrats gain control? So, the Democratic control of the Senate is important for the pot industry because Republicans have historically taken a harder stance on cannabis than Democrats. So, while multiple cannabis bills have passed the Democrat controlled House in the past few years, there's been no progress in the Senate. So in September of 2019, the House passed the Secure and Fair Enforcement or Safe Banking Act. The bill was an effort to help the industry easily access banking services and avoid having to hold excessive amounts of cash, which may be arguably a security issue. Even that failed to go anywhere in the Senate. So cannabis reform is an easy way to get investors bullish on the sector, no doubt about that. See here. All right. So running that down to what cannabis reform is going to look like at the federal level. Basically, prospects for major federal cannabis reform, according to this MJ Business Daily article, it's poised to take a big step forward. Now, the Democrats have appeared to be on course to take control of the U.S. Senate. So, closely watched Georgia Senate runoffs are coming to a close here, allowing for the Democratic-controlled House and Senate and vice president position. So, efforts for reform cannabis in Congress in the past haven't really gone anywhere, but there's been talks about removing cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act and ending the federal government's prohibition. So even with the House and the Senate and the Democratic-controlled vice president, president, there's not going to be a slam dunk under the incoming Biden administration and a Democratic Congress. Even with Democratic apparently sweeping in Georgia, cannabis legalization or legislation at the federal level could remain tough because more conservative nature of the U.S. Senate and other pressing priorities, including the pandemic and other issues with the economy. So looks like in theory, there might be some listed topics to track, like cannabis banking reform that could give cannabis companies greater access to banking services, letting states decide how to regulate cannabis without any federal interference, such as the States Act, and then descheduling, such as the MORE Act, the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, which the U.S. House passed late last year in a historic vote, and then the federal legalization of medical and or recreational cannabis. So analysts now note that the progressive Democrats who champion the MORE Act, they might not support comprehensive legislation that doesn't include criminal expungements and social equity provisions. So several analysts have also written that cannabis banking reform would seem to be the most likely legislation to pass in the new Congress. Cannabis banking reform would enable more marijuana enterprises to use not only traditional banking sources, but also tap into additional sources of capital for business operations and expansion. Descheduling cannabis and hence legalizing it federally is the industry's end game because it would resolve all of the main issues in one fell swoop. They'd have banking access limited to raising capital or limits on raising capital, section on 280E, the provision of the federal tax code that prevents state legal marijuana companies from deducting ordinary business expenses. But the Democratic platform shaped by Biden reflects a more moderate approach by legalizing medical marijuana federally, rescheduling marijuana, and then supporting states' rights. So I think we'll have to find out what really happens. There's always kind of something that happens in between. Lobbyists, right? So once you get enough people involved that have their own agenda and want things to be either exclusive or, helping them. Right now, you're seeing a massive lawsuit between Canopy Growth suing GW Pharma for infringement on its CO2 extraction. So CO2 is not novel. It hasn't, it's been around for a long time. And so by Canopy Growth saying that they have exclusivity on that on their patent is crazy. So I would expect to see more crazy things like that as we kind of move forward, especially with how much is on the line with fully legalization. So let's see what happens in the cannabis industry outlook in 2021. So Seeking Alpha's got an article here. Let's kind of just dive into that for a second. So in summary, the cannabis industry has got a strong year with U.S. markets significantly outperforming Canadian peers. So they think the best combination for 2021 is a basket of high quality multi-state operators. And then, oops, wrong button here. There's also opportunities, the pick and shovel plays. That's the ancillary side, non-plant touching. So either through future prices, or actually future price corrections or potential turnarounds. All right. So cannabis sector just finished a strong 2020 in the U.S. market, soaring while many Canadian stocks struggled. Looking into 2021, you can think that the theme is going to continue to play out as the world's two largest cannabis markets face a divergent outlook. More importantly, within each market, there's a certain companies positioned better to thrive, and some are going to continue to struggle. At the market backdrop, you can see the U.S. cannabis sector significantly outperforming Canadian markets in 2020. There's a chart that shows a blue area, that's the S&P 500, and a blue line is the Advisors Shares Pure Cannabis ETF, or YOLO, ticker symbol. That's 60% weighted towards the U.S. stocks and 30% Canada. The green line is the Horizon Marijuana Life Index, ticker symbol HMLSF, including the largest Canadian LPs. So while the S&P 500 was up 16% last year, the Canadian cannabis ETF was down 8% for the year, driven by gains and losses from various holdings. Well, they clearly weren't in the C3 fund because we were up 93%. Meanwhile, U.S. focused YOLO, they rose 43%, driven by strong gains across the board. Not too shabby, but it's less than half of what we got. All right. So they expect that the U.S. cannabis sector and U.S. focus ETFs to outperform again in 2021 due to several reasons. First of all, the size of the prize in Canada is too small. So the Canadian adult use market, it reached US $2.5 billion in October of last year, which is smaller than California's legal market in 2019, estimated at $2.8 billion. So the California market, it's expected to reach $4 billion in 2020. And while Canadian markets have also doubled in monthly sales during the pandemic, so did the U.S. markets. All in all, U.S. is a much larger market and estimated to be 10 times the size of the Canadian market. Chart of the week. So U.S. markets, they have better regulatory environments for existing players. So while cannabis remains illegal federally, more states have legalized cannabis, including all 5 states during the 2020 state ballots, including Arizona, Mississippi, Montana, New Jersey, and South Dakota. Most U.S. states allow for a limited number of licenses, which created excellent opportunities for market access and profitability. Most markets are undersupplied, which led to explosive organic growth and strong profits. For example, Trulieve operates at a negative 50% EBITDA margin, primarily from dominating the Florida market, which is one of the highest. Maybe that's positive 50% EBITDA. In other markets such as Illinois and Pennsylvania, existing license holders reported high double-digit organic growth and meaningful expansion of profitable margins across the board. Meanwhile, in Canada, despite the retail cannabis sales almost doubling, many LPs have struggled to benefit. The reason for the dichotomy is that higher legal sales were helped by LP introduction of lower priced products. So we've seen from almost all Canadian LPs that the premium segment is shrinking and consumers are opting for the bulk value brands, cheap weed. So LPs need to take the share back from the illicit market, which means lower prices and lower profits. So lower margins offset higher volumes, which led to uneven performance across LPs. For example, Aurora's latest quarterly sales dropped 10% year over year, but gross profits declined a whopping 42% as margins declined 20 points. Some of the mergers, M&As, continue to play a big role in both markets in the 2021 year. So in the U.S., we've seen deal activity slow down last year as the multi-state operators focus on the execution and integrating previous acquisitions. However, we've seen small deals heat up as the companies acquiring specific assets to enter certain markets. Instead of the billion-dollar mergers, companies like Trulieve and Columbia Care acquired assets worth less than 100 million to enter states like Pennsylvania, Illinois, and Ohio. The change of pace was the aftermath of several high-profile acquisitions failed, like the MedMen PharmaCann and Cresco Labs' failed acquisition of Trike and Vitacan. In Canada, Afri is acquiring Tilray in a reverse takeover. It's going to create the largest domestic player in the market share and second largest by market cap. In summary, you can expect that the asset level acquisitions are going to continue for the U.S. players, while the Canadian M&A market is going to be quiet, with maybe one of the two deals among remaining players. Some stock ideas. Well, 2021 ideas include a basket of U.S. multi-state operators, or MSOs. So the proposed merger of Afria and Tilray, and some ideas on pick and shovel plays, the ancillary side. Starting with the U.S., Seeking Alpha, they like a number of names because the U.S. market is unique in each state and has its unique regulations, but most restrict one license per operator. So as a result, no one company could dominate across markets. Maybe Florida, where Trulieve owns half of the market through first mover advantages and strong execution. I'm not sure if that's entirely true. I think you can have maybe 5 to 6 licenses in a lot of those states. So maybe that's just an East Coast thing. Not really sure. But they think, real quick. All right. They think that Curaleaf is too expensive, has lower margins, and its past merger and acquisition record was questionable. TerrAscend is one of the most expensive mergers and acquisitions, likely due to its affiliation with Canopy Growth. Harvest Health could rebound if it solves previous M&A execution issues. Planet 13 is expensive, and its business model might be difficult to replicate outside of Las Vegas. Another way to play that segment is easily through the relatively new advisor shares or through the C3 fund. Go to c3fund.com. That's C and then THREE fund, FUND.com. All right. Moving on to Canada. Well, first off, let's go to check out the picks and shovels in the U.S. So Seeking Alpha, they don't see any attractive opportunities in this space due to valuation. Grow Generation and IIPR, that's a real estate investment trust, so they're enjoying some strong tailwinds from the pandemic and industry growth. However, both stocks trade at prohibitive valuations that look very frothy. So GrowGen, they trade at 93x. Wow. So it doesn't make any sense for them, and they'd monitor those stocks for any pullback or impact on demand once the pandemic cedes. So in conclusion, they think the best way to play the cannabis sector is to favor the U.S. multi-state operators, either a basket of high-quality names, as they mentioned, or some U.S.-focused ETFs. Investors also considering supplementing the U.S. stocks with Afria or Tilray due to their dominant Canadian position and global presence and attractive valuation. And certain pick and shovel stocks that could be attractive either at more attractive entry points or with signs of successful turnaround laid out above. So we believe that, Seeking Alpha believes that cannabis markets has used 2019, 2020 to prove its legitimacy and growth potential, and 2021 is set up to be another strong year. The U.S. Senate runoff in Georgia, another wild card to kind of change the outcome for cannabis stocks in the short term, which is why they're going gangbusters today. And another long-term outlook remains very positive and patient and persistent. Investors are going to be rewarded by sticking to high-quality names. All right. So with that, we're going to bring on Rohit Srivastava, Chief Investment Officer and Portfolio Manager with the C3 Fund, to kind of give us a little bit of an update. Rohit, thanks for being back with us.
Thanks, Josh.
Yeah. So what do you got for us? Obviously, the Georgia Senate runoff was crazy. Stocks and the cannabis stocks are going nuts. What do you got for us?
You got to get in. I don't know if you're in or not, but I was telling you yesterday that you, instead of putting that money in the cryptocurrency, you should just put the money in the cannabis.
Yeah, you were telling me that. And I'm like, well, let's see what we can do, because I know crypto is going to go crazy. I think crypto.com CRO has an opportunity to maybe go up over 550% this year, but a nice solid basket where you can kind of diversify a little bit more. Maybe that 100% is a little bit safer than that 550, but maybe we'll do both. I don't know. C3 fund's looking pretty hot this year.
Yeah. So I was still updating. This is not a regular slides. I just prepared a couple of slides
Great.
only for this session. So
yeah, whatever you've got.
Just 2 more minutes. Just give me
Sure.
2 more minutes. I'm like one more slide, and then
Okay.
I will just show you what I have.
Yeah. Sounds good. So we're going to get an update on the cannabis stocks from automated trading platform C3 Fund. It's artificial intelligence based algorithm that kind of focuses on technical analysis. And so it's got predictive analysis too. So that's pretty interesting. We were pretty spot on with our October prediction. We got out of the market before there was a minor correction, but then we knew that November was going to be a pop, and we got in and took advantage of the wild swings that we've basically been seeing ever since. A lot of volatility, a lot of price swings, a lot of missed opportunity too from our competitors, to be quite candid. But I think that there's enough time out there to grab some market share no matter what, because things are going gangbusters. A lot of equities are skyrocketing right now. A lot of optimism, regardless of the ticker symbol or name. So interesting to see kind of what the return is going to be like against the competition, being PodX and MJ, all of those cannabis ETFs by comparison. So later on in the year, or actually maybe even next month, we can maybe do a podcast too on cryptocurrencies. A lot of interest in that. A lot of as everything, everyone's kind of running away from fiat currency, trying to get into anything that has a store of value, right? Whether that's a cannabis stock or cryptocurrency. A lot of need for that. But there's greed too. We all want speculation. We all want to see that 550% increase. And so if we can get some of that it's like Robin Hood, not the trading account. I'm talking about the historical character. If we can rob from Wall Street and give to the people, that's not our vision, but maybe it should be. But yeah, that's ultimately what we're trying to do is allow for smart frequency trading to reach the public. And so our idea is to make this a publicly traded ETF eventually, and provide some of those amazing returns to the general public, because again, cannabis stocks are going to be taking off. Some of the trends are showing that we could potentially see 100% return on investment, but we're just going to have to come back to the talking hedge and find out.
Okay. So I'm ready to share.
You are.
So is this a live streaming podcast, or is this like you're going to record it and like post it on?
Both. So we are live streaming to YouTube right now, and then I'll do some post production afterwards, and then that'll go to all the MP3 platforms.
Okay, awesome. So let me share my screen here. Okay. So should I share the application or just the screen?
You can share either one. You can share the full screen, and that will that should work out as well. Perfect.
Okay. So like today's market was crazy, and we were anticipating this kind of a change in the last 1 week. But before, disclaimer that this is all for entertainment. This is all for learning. There is no, we're not trying to tell you what to invest. This is purely for telling you and having you learn how to invest and giving you some idea about how we invest and how do we invest into different kind of stocks. So this is the cannabis index, which we have been tracking from all these months. So here is the picture of what happened today. These are the stocks which we track, the 19 stocks. Now it's 18 stocks. And in this year, what we're going to do is we're going to add maybe 5 or 6 stocks more into this list. and that would be probably at the end of this month, at the January. But these are the stocks which we were invested as of today. Some of them you can see that skyrocketed. Some of them didn't do that well, and most of them, like IIPR, it's more like a property management for the cannabis. So what gives me an idea is that mostly the manufacturers and the growers, probably they did very well. And you are an expert, subject matter expert in this. I'm just giving you what the data is telling. But the other ones didn't do that great. More the manufacturers are the one which did very well. So we are very bullish on right now. The C3 is very bullish on the marijuana market as ever before. And in order to give you an idea why, let me give you an idea about like what was happening in the last 1 month, and why do we think that it's so. What we're going to do is we're going to look at MJ, and we're going to do some analysis and explain you why we are bullish as before. So first, the money flow index. The money flow index is at the bottom since the election. So since the election, it actually had bottomed out, but it is not in the downward direction. It is in the upward direction. There was a little bit of spike. There was a little bit of downturn in the last 1 week, but that's only a little bit of sell-off at the end of the year to take the profits for what some of the people might have gained. But even though with that, there was not a major sell-off. The second aspect is the MACD reversal, where you can see that the MACD reversal is happening. And during this time, it's happening even before it actually reaching to zero. That is actually very incredible. There is a little bit more complicated reasoning for the MACD as well. It's just not that, but to oversimplify it, that's probably one of the reasons why you can see that the MACD reversal is happening. We already had a golden signal in golden intersection way back in December. And since that, then the market had been consolidating. But what it really tells is it's the market, the marijuana market, it is in the bullish signal. And even when we saw a little bit of correction happening from the highs, the 3 months highs, the reversal didn't really reach to 50-day moving average before it turned around. That's actually a very positive signal. A very positive signal means, like from economics perspective, the investors couldn't even wait till reaching 50-day moving average, and they wanted to step in and buy more stocks. So what I have to conclude right now for a short term, since we are mostly like a short term investors, is that my guess is based on the VWAP on a high price level. I think my view is that MJ would actually reach about $21.71 by March. Now again, this is about what is that? How much? What's it's at $17. So that's still like about 20 to 25% from where it is right now. So it is still looking for a very good run for at least for the next 2 months, and that's why I think it is the perfect time to invest in C3. Number one, we have been doing a lot better than any of these funds. If you look at our previous podcast and look at how we have done a lot better than any of these stocks. Cannabis market is hottest as ever. And the third reason is that we are estimating a triple-digit growth in 2021. Those are the three reasons why I think it would be a perfect time to invest in C3 fund at this point. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions or if you want to know more, anything about that, this is my email address and phone number, or you can reach out to Josh, which he will give information about during this podcast.
Yeah, all that information we'll have in the show notes as well. So for the triple-digit return, that is our prediction for the year. So you have to come back to the Talking Hedge and find out. We're going to end on this from Chris about cannabis legalization in 2021. It's going to be a huge cultural change in America. Again, you have to come back to the Talking Hedge and find out. I want to thank my guest, Rohit Shrivastava, Chief Investment Officer and Portfolio Manager with the C3 Fund. Rohit, thanks for being back on the podcast.
Thanks, Josh. I'll talk to you later.
All right, I'm Josh Kincaid. This is the Talking Hedge. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, or don't, and I'm out. Don't forget to smash that like button on your way out and check out these other videos that we've got.